Hi guys, it's me Gwen. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are back in it with another advice get ready with me segment. I'll be getting ready for work while I tell you why I stopped giving a fuck and how you can too. I think that people give way too many shits and crap, and going into the new year you really have to learn how to focus on yourself. Whatever year you're going into, just please be in tune with yourself and tap into those higher vibrations and become your highest self. So the first piece of advice I have is to start investing time in yourself. I think especially when you start developing a hobby and you start finding things that you enjoy in life and you just start doing them frequently, you become so less concerned with the people around you. And I particularly feel like that people who are so invested in other people to a concerning extent don't have hobbies themselves. So what else can you do when you have nothing to do but just overthink and think about other people and what they're doing and how their life is so much better than mine? And honestly, to tune that out, you have to tune into yourself. I think when you allow time to do things that you like and you start investing time in yourself, you just become so much more in tune with yourself, and it kind of sets a standard almost, because you're like, oh, I don't want anyone to break my routine, my peace, my pride. And it just sets standards, and it kind of attracts high vibration people who, you know, are worth your time, and not low vibration people who are toxic. Like literally, that's it, like that are just toxic. And I think another thing in 2024 that I'm particularly kind of focusing on and honing in on is making sure that I have good quality relationships. And you can't have a good quality relationship if you're not investing in yourself, because you have to think about it. You're contributing 50% to the relationship, or maybe you're overcompensating, or you're not giving enough. So it's kind of just balancing out those percentages, and ultimately by taking care of yourself. Okay, the next tip I have is to control your ego. And honestly, I need to start doing this more, because I think especially when my day-to-day job and also YouTube as a job is so based in numbers, I become so competitive with myself and even others, and it's so bad for your brain to be constantly in that state of mind. Your ego is not your amigo. One of the things that you have to take into account with this is that you are not better or worse than someone. I think with competition a lot, the stigma is kind of, oh, you're better than me. But you know, there's also the I feel lesser. I don't feel like I'm as good enough as you. And you have to stop with that mindset, like honestly. And it just shows me that someone doesn't have a sense of self when they say stuff like that to themselves, because you are being so disrespectful to yourself. I think competition is a great way to be a motivator and, you know, creating discipline, but don't let it be the motivator in your friendships, your relationships, etc. It should not be like that. And I think overall, just stop being jealous of people in your relationships. If you have a friend that you were like, oh my gosh, I wish I could be like her, like she's so pretty, like she's 10 times prettier than me, stop with that mindset. Because you have so many qualities yourself that you're not acknowledging when you say stuff like that. And you know, if you are friends with a jealous person, let's say on the opposite end of the spectrum, where this person literally like is dying to just one-up you and be there for your downfalls and be there when you're crying and be there when you're upset, but never there for when you're winning and when you're up at the top, drop that person. Drop that person. I know in my last video I said I think it's good to let someone down slowly. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. I think no contact is one of the best forms of creating peace for yourself in 2024. You know, just staying offline, blocking that person on their stories. I think casual blocking should be a thing. I think a casual block is the best thing in the world, and I'm so glad that our phones allow us to do that, because it immediately disconnects you from this person. So my next tip is to discipline yourself. And I feel like discipline has such a negative connotation because we associate it with our parents literally like yelling at us. But I think one of the most, attractive qualities within people is if they are disciplined. Are you making that promise to yourself and completing that promise every single day? Discipline doesn't have to be something crazy. Discipline can simply just be going on a walk, or reading a book, or waking up at a certain time, working out. I think discipline is one of the best ways to create a higher sense of self and stop being concerned with people, because you're focusing on your routine and what you need to get done and what you have to do with yourself, not with other people. Stop being so concerned with other people's, you know, day-to-day lives and just what they have to do, because that's not your responsibility and that's not your concern. I get questions and comments all the time being like, Gwen, I don't get how you're a morning person. I don't know how you get up at this time. Discipline self. That's all I have to say. And it doesn't have to be crazy stuff, like I said before. Okay, the next tip is that no one cares as much as you. As someone who had very bad social anxiety throughout high school and someone who went to therapy to discuss these kind of things, I think one of the number one things that helped me with this is that no one cares as much as you do. As much as it sounds so terrible of me to say, like, no one gives as big of a shit about you as yourself. I think it's so important to stop assuming what other people are thinking. Assuming makes an ass out of you and me. That is why I've changed so much in the past couple of years, because if someone spreads a rumor about me, however true or false it may be, I don't care. I used to care so much about what my peers think about me, and I think it is important to have your close family and I think your friends' opinions on what you're doing in life. But also, if someone doesn't even talk to you, if someone doesn't know you like you know yourself, then what business do they have spreading rumors about you, and what business do you have caring? Yeah, just know that it looks worse on them than it does you, and staying silent is key. Don't play into that drama, don't play into that negative energy, because then you're gonna attract that negative energy. Okay, and along those lines, embarrassment is a mindset. Embarrassment is a concept, and embarrassment is only embarrassment if you consider it embarrassment. But I think when you kind of see confident people and you're like, how did they do that? Like, I don't get it. I don't know how you can just go out there and do things like that. Just know that it's because they know that embarrassment is a mindset. Embarrassment means so many different things to so many different people. So what you may be considering embarrassing might not be embarrassing to someone else. So please put yourself out there. Don't be embarrassed to do social media. Don't be embarrassed to, I don't know, pursue a hobby, play a sport, read a book. Don't be embarrassed by any of that. I think embarrassment is such a common thing in your late teens, early 20s, because you care so much about what your peers think about you. But I think it's important to stop taking things so seriously and stop thinking that the world revolves around you and like everyone saw that and I'm so embarrassed, and so what? So what? If it doesn't matter in 5 years, it won't matter within these 5 minutes. Another thing is to stop giving in to trends, styles, fads, etc. Anything that's considered trendy. If you look at your role models, the coolest people alive, models, I don't know, it's because they have their own sense of self, own sense of style, own sense of whatever, lifestyle, yada, yada, yada. I f***ing hate when people are like, I need to buy this because I saw this on TikTok and TikTok made me buy it, and I need to look like her, and I need to look exactly like her, and I need to do her makeup routine because I want to be exactly, stop. Do you like listen to yourself? Do you hear yourself? One, styles and trends play into mass consumerism. And honestly, another thing is you're not being original. I think with beauty standards as well, stop trying to conform to the overall beauty standard when you know that you can't fit into it because of literal genetics, like literal genetics. And I think the same thing goes into relationships and labels in, you know, dating and also friendships as well. I think stop settling for the bare minimum. Just because you want a boyfriend does not mean you're gonna date a street rat. Just because all your friends have boyfriends does not mean that you're gonna settle for a fucking loser. I feel like I see this so much with girls. They're just underselling themselves and being with someone who genuinely does not respect them or themselves. In your 20s, I feel this all the time, where you just feel this overwhelming pressure to be in a relationship, and your family members are always asking you, have you gotten a boyfriend yet? Like, are you dating anyone? Like, do you find anyone attractive? And it's like, I find myself attractive. I'm trying to spend time with myself. You have the rest of your life to be someone else's something, but there's such a short amount of time where you get to be just by yourself. And I love this feeling so much, and I'm not just gonna let any regular, ordinary person walk into my life and disturb that. I've worked so hard on myself, and it's so important to protect your peace. I know so many people make a joke out of it, and they're like, yeah, I'm protecting my peace in 2020. Protect your peace. Like, you deserve the best, and you deserve to be happy and have someone who respects themselves as much as you do. And if you're not happy, don't obligate yourself to stay in a relationship. If you are not your best self in this relationship, leave. Like, I don't know. But if you feel like you're not becoming your highest self with this person, and they're not adding value into your life, and they're not your cherry on top of that already perfect sundae, then, you know, this person's not for you. I think there's so much pressure, especially from the media, especially from just a lot of cultural and media standards, that you need to be in love and you need to experience this feeling of love in a relationship at this certain age, and you need to be married at this certain age and have babies at this age. And it's like, oh my God, let me live my life. Stop listening to the media and stop playing into this kind of fantasy romance. And I think if you are in a relationship, my number one piece of advice as someone who is an independent galley is that you need to be independent too. I think dependency in relationships, I think it's good because it creates this kind of intimacy that you don't have with someone, you know, on just the regular day-to-day. But also learn how to exist as X and Y, and learn how to exist as X and learn how to exist as Y. Like, have stuff outside of your relationship that you can do, because if you become so attached to someone and so dependent on someone, you know, in the case that something does go wrong, your world goes shattering down. And just do yourself good if you are in a relationship, and make sure that that person is just contributing to your highest self. The next tip is that a small amount of high quality friends is way greater than having a shit ton of materialistic quantity friends. I think in 2024, it's so important that you stop hanging out with people that feed into your social anxiety, and stop hanging out with people that are just not good for your mental health and your self-worth. And I feel like sometimes people don't know how to see that. And the number one thing I have to say to that is that if you walk away from every conversation feeling drained, and you walk away from every conversation feeling like, oh my gosh, all I wanted to do was leave during that conversation, that's when you know. That's when you know. I feel like something that I've learned recently is that introvert and extrovert is just a concept, and you should be extroverted when you're with people that you love. If you're with people that you quote unquote love, and every time you feel like you have to shut the fuck up, they're not your friends. They're not your friends. If you feel drained after every conversation you walk away from, if you feel anxious just seeing that person and you feel like you have to walk on eggshells around them, stop being friends with them. I used to have a friend that would weaponize the shit out of their mental health as an excuse to make me feel bad. Like, you should never be using your mental health as an excuse to treat people in a shitty way. Stop weaponizing that shit and start working on yourself. And also, when you start off with a friendship or relationship, when you start dating, please don't spill your beans to everyone. I feel like this is something I'm still trying to work on, and something that I have gotten better at over the past years. Don't tell everyone your life story. They don't need to hear it. Build up that trust. Don't start at a 100% trust and go through your relationship like that. They have to work to hear about your life. And you know what, that might be controversial of me to say, because a lot of people do bond through storytelling and trauma bonding, etc. But I think something that I'm trying to take into my new relationships is that you have to gain that trust, and you have to work to learn about me. You know, invest time in me. As much as I'm giving to you, you will give back to me. And I feel like I'm speaking with that kind of mindset specifically because I think when people see a high confident, high vibrational, high energy, in tune with themselves individual, they will try their hardest, their damnedest to dim your light. And honestly, what I have to say to that is that's why you just can't go into every relationship spilling your beans, because they can take that information and just start like running with it. Okay, next tip is to stop settling. Back to what I was saying before, don't feed into that pressure of needing to have a boyfriend and needing to be in a relationship because of what the current standards are. When I say stop settling, it's not just necessarily referring to relationships, and it's not necessarily just referring to you know, your friendships and, you know, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, etc., but also jobs and other so many more important things in life. I think when you hear the phrase, oh, they're setting the bar too high all the time, your bar is never high enough. I think you have to understand that. And when people are like, oh, I think you're asking for too much, they're not asking for enough. I think having a high bar shows that you respect yourself, and it takes a very special someone, something to come into your life and add value. You just respect yourself, and you're not for the streets and constantly like, oh, I'm gonna go there just because, and I'm gonna go here just because. I think it is so important to acknowledge that you deserve the best ever. You deserve the best life, the best person, the best friend. You deserve the best of everything. And by settling for something that is lower than that, you're doing the biggest disservice to yourself and lowering your standards for someone who is terrible or a job that is terrible. Know that you're doing a big disservice to yourself. And especially when it comes to romantic relationships and just boyfriends, girlfriends, etc. Once a cheater, always a cheater. If you get back with a cheater, you don't respect yourself. Like, that's it, period. When I see this happen all the time, the first thing that runs through my brain is, wow, they don't have respect for themselves. They are doing the biggest disservice to themselves. But I get the want and need to go back to a cheater, especially if you're in love with them, because love is a drug. That feeling of love is like a high euphoria feeling, and you want to be in it all the time. And when you don't have that, you feel you're going through symptoms of withdrawal. Like, that's what it is. And the drug is being slowly removed from your brain. You're like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. I can't live. I can't, be happy. And that's where no contact comes in. If you can survive without them for a week, you can survive without them for the rest of your life. So it's that discipline and that commitment to yourself. So if you're dealing with a cheater, block them for a week and the rest of your life. And overall, I think my final tip is that we're all gonna die anyways, no matter what you believe in. So make the most out of it while you're alive and live with no regrets, because you are not your past, you're your present. So that's just so important to remember. And as Drake once said, started not to give a and stop fearing the consequence. Faded way too long. I'm floating in and out of consciousness. Not the last part, but started not to give a fuck and stopped fearing the consequence. Like, please live by that line. If you have not listened to Headlines by Drake, please listen to it. It's such a great song. But yeah, that was it for this week's video. I hope you enjoyed. I definitely loved making this one. I think advice videos are my favorite because I will do anything to contribute to someone's higher self and will do anything to contribute to increasing someone's well-being, because I think especially in the world that we live in, where we're constantly online and we're constantly looking for the approval of others, it's so hard to start living for yourself, and it's so hard to start thinking for yourself and asking yourself your own opinion and not other people's opinions. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next week. Bye.